In today's episode, we're playing with braces. We're going to brace the top as well as the back, so stick around. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Home Built Workshop. I hope you're all doing awesome. It's another acoustic guitar episode. Last week, you saw me build this contraption of a gobar deck over here. Now it's finally time to put that thing to work and glue some pieces together. I've spent a fair amount of time preparing all of the braces. Now we're not going to cover this in the video because really it's kind of just a tedious process of following the measurements on the plan, dimensioning everything according to the plan with the correct grain direction. I did most of this dimensioning using my drum sander, just carefully taking measurements, making very light passes until I got all of the braces down to the dimensions specified on the plan. But now I have all of the braces prepared. I have made an acrylic template with all of my brace locations. It's probably going to be hard for you guys to see this, but I have all of the braces drawn out here, and I've drilled holes at all of the locations so that I can mark those locations onto my pieces so I know where to glue them. But you really can't see that at all. Sorry about that. Let's come in a little bit closer. I'll show you what we've got. So in this pile of pieces here, this is all of the rough bracing for the top. These are the bracing as well as the support pieces for the back. And here, maybe you can see a little bit better, the marks and lines that I've made onto this acrylic template. To make this, I just glued my pattern to a piece of acrylic and then just started transferring all of the marks onto the acrylic and then drilled all of the little holes right here. Just outlined all of the bracing for the top with a Sharpie, and for the braces on the back, I've just scored those lines with a utility knife just so I know what goes where. I'm going to start out with gluing the braces on the back. I'm going to use a 15-foot radius dish for the back. If you remember, I made two separate ones. This is a 28. When it comes down to working on the top, I'll just flip this whole contraption over. We'll use the 28 for the top, 15 foot for the back. Now the first piece to glue on the back is just a reinforcing strip to reinforce this glue joint. This is an offcut from the top. If you remember, I set that aside when I trimmed the top down to size. That's just going to get glued on here flat right on the center line. Since that is going to be flat, I'm just going to put a piece of MDF on top of my radius dish just to give me a flat surface. Once this reinforcing strip is glued in place, I'll pull this out and then we'll be working in the radius of the dish. I'm going to be gluing this in two pieces because it really just wasn't long enough to get the whole seam, but where there's going to be a joint, I've cleaned that up, squared it up really nice on the shooting board. I've also marked out the center line of my reinforcing strip so that I can line it up with the center line of my back plate. So you ready? Let's glue this. There's the first one. Once the glue's dried and I removed the bendy stick clamps, we now have a reinforced glue joint on our back plate. Now in my haste to get started gluing, I forgot to mark out the outer location of the body. Would have been easier to do that first, that way we have a reference line while the surface is nice and flat, but I wasn't paying attention and I was in a hurry to get started. So now I'm just going to use my acrylic template, carefully line it up and trace that outline, and then I'll mark out the locations for the back braces. I think drilling these holes in my acrylic template was a really good idea. It's really easy to take a mechanical pencil and mark a light pencil line right where the brace needs to go. Now that I've got the locations marked for the back braces, now I need to remove this material where the brace is going to sit. We want that brace to sit nice and flat against the back plate and not be held off the surface by this reinforcement. Dang it, why is the battery always dead? These batteries are going out. Ah.
I'm using a fine-toothed razor saw to make several cuts where I need to remove the brace. Then I'll just carefully dig that out with a chisel.
So that first brace fits great. Now I just got to repeat that process a few more times and then we'll glue these bad boys in.
Before I begin to apply any glue though, I need to spend a few minutes sanding and putting a slight radius on this center strip. I'm just using a few different sanding blocks to lightly sand it somewhat rounded. And while the back is still relatively clear of obstructions, I'm just going to sand it lightly with some 220.
Sorry, I didn't mean to blow that in your eyes. Safety glasses. So with the reinforcing strip done, we are ready to move on and get the braces radiused so we can glue these things into place. We're going to turn our attention now over to our 15-foot radius dish. To get the radius on our brace, we could just come over here and just start sanding. It would take quite a while because we got to remove a fair bit of material. To make it a little bit quicker, instead of just sanding first, I'm going to trace the radius onto the brace and then remove some of that material with a hand plane. So there you can see we got to remove some material on either end.
I'll add a bunch of pencil marks to the bottom surface, that way I know where I've sanded and where I haven't. When the pencil marks are gone, I'll know I've sanded the entire length of the radius.
Perfect. All our pencil marks are gone. So the braces are all radiused. We are now ready to apply some glue. But before I do that, I'm going to take just a second and trim a little bit of length off of these bendy clamping sticks. I think they're just a little bit too long. I noticed when I was bending these into place on the center strip, it kind of wanted to push things at an angle, and I think that's because the stick was bent too far. So I'm going to take, I don't know, 1.5 inches or so off of each one, and we'll test it out and see if it works a little bit better.
And now I can finally begin applying some glue. I've placed some parchment paper underneath the back plate to protect it from the sandpaper on the radius dish. We'll just put the brace in place and then hold it down with our bendy clamping sticks. As the clamping sticks press down onto the back plate, it conforms it to the contour of the radius sanding dish. And since the brace also has this radius sanded into it, it's going to hold the back exactly at that radius.
Looks like it's in. We'll just keep going. Well, I've got the last brace clamped in place. We're going to give it a little bit of time to dry and then take a look at our work. And now we get to do a very similar process to the top, only I think this one's going to be a little bit more complicated, but basically the process is going to be the same.
And just like on the back plate, I'm going to trace the outline of my template as well as mark all of the locations for the braces with a little pencil. Except that the top has a lot more braces going in a lot of different directions.
After marking out all of the locations for the braces, I've taken a moment and very lightly connected the dots so that I have a really good visual representation of where everything's going to go. Hopefully that'll help me from making any sort of errors. We'll see how that works out. The first two braces I'm going to work on are the X braces. I need to mark out the location where they overlap and basically cut a half lap joint so that these will fit together in the proper spot. I've switched my radius dish over to the 28-foot dish, and now, just like we did on the back braces, I'll scribe that radius onto the brace and we'll fit it with a hand plane and then sand it to fit. And now for some glue. With the X braces glued in place, I decided I'm just going to keep moving forward. I can already see that this process is going to take quite a bit of time. So most of this I'm going to do probably off camera, but the next piece that I need to glue in is the bridge reinforcing plate. This was an offcut from the Paduke back plates. Next up are the tone bars. Now these are going to require a little bit of carving ahead of time to remove some material where it butts up against the X braces. You could probably do this after the fact, but I think it's going to be easier if I remove some of this material ahead of time. I've got the last 3 sound hole braces clamped up. The glue is dry. We're ready to check this out. Now, most of the bracing on the top I did off camera, mainly because it was a lot of the same process that you guys already got to see me do. Fitting the brace, gluing it up, waiting for it to dry, moving on to the next set, rinse and repeat. And really, I didn't think you guys wanted to see me do the exact same thing over and over and over again. Let's see how these look. And there's this crazy contraption of bracing. It makes a noise. It's about all I can tell you. I'm still building the ear for that. The back and the top are fully braced. Now we've got to move on to do some brace carving. I'm going to probably do most of that off camera because I need to learn really what I'm doing for that. And I just want to go slow, take my time, make sure I'm doing things right. Really, I'm pretty happy with the way these turned out. They've got a nice tone, as far as I can tell. We're ready to move on to the next step. This was an interesting project for sure. I'm happy with the way they turned out. I did have a little bit of trouble with my clamping sticks, the bendy clamping sticks. If I didn't get them in there at just the right angle, it seemed like they wanted to push or pull the braces in one direction or another. Now I don't know if that's related to this particular sticks that I'm using or if that's just a character of a gobar deck. I don't really know, but I got to do a little research on that. It was a little bit tricky. I did have one of the braces shift just a little bit as I was gluing it in place. I'm not too worried. I don't think it's going to make any difference, but it was something that I had to really pay attention to with these smaller braces, that these sticks didn't let them move around, but that's how we learn, right? So there we have it, guys. Ready to move on to the next step. If you guys are interested in seeing more videos in this acoustic guitar building series, I'm going to put a playlist right up here. It'll have the earlier videos as well as all videos after this. You'll be able to click on that, watch it all in one playlist. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.